Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Q&A session um, for the Bhagavad Gita class series. We will start with the Mangalacharan prayers. Let me share that on the screen. Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So we made more progress on the fourth chapter yesterday. Very quick recap, but I think all of you had joined already. But still, for the benefit of those who could not join or may watch this later, let me quickly share the main points that were covered yesterday. We continued in the fourth chapter. The quick recap from the first few chapters was Lord Krishna is explaining the reasons for his appearance, and he gives a differentiation or the reason why his appearance is different from the appearance of all the normal living entities, all the jivas. And then he says in 4.9 that those who knows the glories of my transcendental appearance and activities, janma karma cha me divyam. So the janma and karma who knows, in essence, evam yoveti tattvataha. Those people get liberated. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. So Arjuna. So we had a nice discussion on what is the meaning of knowing in essence. How to know in essence that Krishna is, what are his activities and what are his births. So that was main part of the discussion. And 4.10 is providing a very key insight into how to know Krishna in essence, is to be a person who is free of attachments so that one can be attached to Krishna and his activities and his birth. Without being free from other attachments, we cannot have our full attachment on Krishna, because then we are putting our legs in two boats. So free from attachments, free from sense gratification, enjoying separately, mam, aham, all these tendencies one has to give up so that one can understand Krishna fully. Then we went into other aspects of this verse. Vita raga bhaya krodha manmaya mam upashritaha. So giving up all raga and kama, and which leads to bhaya and krodha. Instead, one should focus the mind on Krishna. So this is the do, manmaya mam upashritaha. This is the do part, and this is the don't do or the give up part. Give up, vita means give up, raga bhaya krodha. So we discussed that verse. And Lord Krishna says that many people have experienced me um, by this process. They have come to me. So this is a time-tested process. We went into the purport of 4.10, where Srila Prabhupada very nicely gives the process of the 9 stages of bhakti. And this is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, or also from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It has been repeated there, and the 9 stages are discussed. And we said that we must focus on the first 5 stages, which is Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, and Nishtha. The point being that when we focus, and these 5 stages can be done in parallel with each other and in an iterative way. It's not like after we do Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya, then we start Anartha Nivritti. Anartha Nivritti can start right away. And the process of Sadhu Sangha and Bhajana Kriya helps in Anartha Nivritti as well. So it is a sort of you can go on all these multiple tracks together. And then that leads to taste and attachment in Krishna. And we also discussed this very important verse of Nectar of Instruction, number 7, where Krishna is saying the same thing, or where Rupa Goswami is saying that the process of Bhajana Kriya and Sadhu Sangha creates Anartha Nivritti. It leads to the removal of our anarthas, which is the barrier in tasting the beautiful nectar of Krishna. So the thing that we are trying to resist is itself the medicine. And the example was given here as well. So we went into a couple of other verses also, which I will first cover here, that Srila Prabhupada has mentioned these 2 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam. We went into it, where again Lord Krishna is mentioning that one should not wait to perform bhakti. Bhakti itself leads to, is the antidote for kama, or all our material attachments. So the meaning is that in these 5 processes, partly we have to put our effort in Anartha Nivritti and Nishtha, which means Anartha Nivritti means giving up all the bad qualities, and Nishtha means with determination. This is the hard part for many people. But these 2 steps, or these 3 steps, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and Bhajana Kriya, help in eradicating this. Though we must put our own effort, plus with these first 3 steps, 4 and 5 get diminished or eradicated. So this 5-step process we should follow, which will lead to higher steps 6, 7, 8, and 9. So all that we had covered. Then in 4.11, another very important verse, Lord Krishna is talking about his reciprocation. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tathaiva bhajami aham. That as one reciprocates with me, or as one surrenders unto me, I reward them, or I reciprocate with them accordingly. So if we take 1 step towards Krishna, Krishna takes, we don't know how many steps, maybe 1 step, maybe 10 steps, maybe, how many steps. But if we take 10 steps, Krishna will take 100 steps. So Krishna's immediate and proportional reciprocation is the key point that is there. So we should be ready to see Krishna's reciprocation. Krishna will absolutely reciprocate in our life if we start our performance of bhakti. And then Krishna says, Mama vartamanu vartante manushyaha partha sarvashah. And Krishna says there are many paths. Some people are on the slow path, some people are on the fast path. And then in the next couple of verses, he describes, in 4.12, he describes a slower path. So we had covered these 2 from Bhagavatam. 4.12, Lord Krishna describes a slower path, which is that of the demigods. The demigods reciprocate quickly, but the problem is that upon getting these material results, people, they get satisfied and then they forget the demigods. The purpose of the demigods is to receive the reciprocation from the demigods, but then finally lead to Krishna. People just stop at this level. They get off the train once they, think that this intermediate destination looks very nice. Let me just enjoy here. what's the need to go to the final destination. So another path or process that Lord Krishna describes, or not describes, but very briefly mentions, is the Varnashrama path. This is the process of very gradual elevation through the four Varnas and Ashramas, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And this is given in the Vedas. And this is also a path towards Krishna, but although it is very, or albeit it is very slow. One thing that is to be remembered is that if the Varnashrama path is used for Krishna Bhakti, then it is the same as Krishna Bhakti and it's very fast. So we spent some time in understanding that this Varnashrama system is highly meritocratic. It's not a caste system. It's not based on Janma, on your birth, but is based on your Guna and Karma. So Lord Krishna says, Chatur Varnyam Maya Shrishtam Guna Karma Vibhagashaha. So based on Guna and Karma, the Vibhaga, the division of this Chatur Varnya, four Varnas, has been done. So it means based on the qualities and one's activities. And that means that however you are, what are your natural talents, your natural skills, your natural tendencies, based on that, you are categorized into these four. And these four doesn't mean one is better, one is worse. You know, Shudra, we have this mental or cultural attitude or understanding that it is bad. That is absolutely not the case. I gave the example of, in a company, you have, you know, fellows, you have managers, you have sales, finance people, and you have engineers. All are needed. If you remove any one, the whole society will, or the whole company will not function properly. So this is what this is a, somewhere I wrote, here, it is a social structure for spiritual progress, the Varnashrama system. And we gave the example of a hospital or a medical system. You have the whole medical system that is available to make good doctors. If the medical system is not there, what do you mean by medical system? Undergraduate school, medical school, residency, all the labs, all the good teachers, doctors, and then you become a post whatever specialization, all these things, and then you can get a good doctor. So similarly, and imagine if that whole system did not exist, just from your own or reading the books, it may be very hard for one to become a good doctor. Similarly, this is a social structure for spiritual progress. If this social structure did not exist, then it would be a problem. So the Varnashrama system is meritocracy based, and it is a structure for gradual spiritual progress. But if it is dovetailed into bhakti, then it becomes very nice. So I think that's where we left it yesterday. This was sort of a very quick summary of what we covered. And now there were certain questions from yesterday, and from today we'll have some questions. So please post your questions on the chat. There were two questions yesterday. So let me, I think we used up all the space in the slides. Okay, so we'll start a new Jamboard. So the question was, what is the meaning of dharma? So let me open this. Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Okay. So the question was, what is the meaning of dharma? So the point that was made was, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So whenever there is a decline in religion and a rise in irreligion, then I descend or I appear. Lord Krishna says, I incarnate myself millennium after millennium. Sambhavami yuge yuge. So what is the meaning of dharma? What is dharma? So that is the question. So dharma basically means that it is the essential property of anything, whether it is a person or a animal or a thing, whatever it is, it's the essential quality. If you take out that quality, then that thing, whatever we are talking about, is not the same thing. What is the meaning? So let's take at a material level. Let's just say sugar. Okay. What is the essential property of sugar? If that is not there, you cannot call it sugar. What is it?
Sweetness.
Sweetness, exactly. It provides sweetness. It's not that it is in the crystal form. You get powdered sugar also. You can get big cube of sugar. You can say sugar cube. You can have it in any. So the fact that it is a crystal, that it is white color, you have brown sugar also, right? So you have those kind of, but all sugar needs to be sweet. Otherwise, I cannot say this looks like sugar, but it is not sweet. And it is sugar. Trust me, it is sugar. You will say, fine, you can call it whatever you want. It's not sugar because it's not sweet. That is the essential property of sugar, which makes anything sugar. If I give you something else which is very sweet, you will say, yeah, this is like sugar. You may not call it sugar, but it will serve my purpose. Come on, give it to me. If I give you whatever, that Splenda or something else, those other sweeteners, you will say sugar, as long as it is sweet. So it is the essential property. Same thing like with water. What is the essential property of water? To make, yeah, go ahead.
No taste.
No taste. Well, actually, that is not true. The essential property of water is to make something wet. Okay. Water has taste. You sometimes you should go to maybe Los Angeles or these places, then Portland water will taste very sweet. So Portland water is actually very nice, but I don't know where you are living. Are you living in Portland?
No, in Santa Clara area, near San Francisco.
San Francisco, okay. So anyway, so there's a taste of water. I like Portland water very much, and it has certain taste. Now you can say it is because of certain minerals in the water, etc., etc. And if you take distilled water, it is tasteless. But still, the essential property of water is to make something wet. If you have ice or if you have water vapor, you cannot call it water because that cannot make something wet. So that's the essential property of something. What is the essential property of a table? The essential property of a table is to support something. You put something on the table, it should stay there, it should not fall. So the essential property of a table are that its legs and its surface needs to be strong. Okay, that is the essential property. However beautiful it may be, you may have a marble table, you may have a table with beautiful legs, you may have anything you want, but if it cannot support what you put on it, then it is, that's called dharma nirpekshata. It has become dharma nirpeksh. It has lost its dharma. Then at a social level, okay, what are the properties of, or what is the dharma at a social level? At a social level, there are certain practices that we need to practice as a community, as a neighborhood, as whatever, that you are taking care of each other. And now this becomes a little bit more hazy because we have all kind of screwed up understanding of what is a social dharma, what is our responsibility to someone else, etc. But if you take certain codes, they have social dharma. This is the meaning of a society. Now in the United States, for example, there is a constitution, which clearly states that this is our dharma as a country. This is what we all pledge to as a country. Now, many people may believe in it or not, but that is what is expectation. That's the expectation of a dharma at a social level, at this country level. And then similarly, you can have a dharma for any level, for any kind of community, within your family, within your friends, within your school, within your company. There are certain, at a social level, various dharmas. Now, dharmas could change slightly. Like, for example, in companies, there is this new sort of movement starting about, too much, I'm not saying it in a bad way at all. It's a good thing, but a lot of focus on, transgender, or what you call LBGT kind of thing. You must respect diversity and all. That is a new culture or new dharma being established, so that there is no harassment, there is no disrespect for people in various categories. So that is like a expectation or a new dharma that is being established, that this is how we shall live as a society. Finally, there is a spiritual level. What is the dharma? So at the social level, from the Vedic standpoint, the varnashrama system is the varnashrama, which is varnashrama dharma, or the varnashrama system is expected to be the dharma, that this is at a social level, the dharma at the social level. And it is very detailed. It has a lot of things, not just the fact that the society is divided into these 4x4 aspects, or this 4x4 grid, or 16 sort of broad categories, but there are a lot of details. In the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna gives little more details of each of these categories. Now, at a spiritual level, what is the dharma? At a spiritual level, the primary dharma, as given by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is an incarnation of Lord Krishna, he says that the spiritual dharma is Jivera Swarupa Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. That is the dharma. I will write it down. Jivera Swarupa Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. This is given in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 20th chapter, 108 and 109. So let's quickly have a look at that. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 20, 108. Jivera Swarupa Hoye Krishnera Nityadas. Krishnera Tathashta Sakti Bheda Abheda Prakash Suryamsha Kirana Yai Agni Jwala Chaya Swabhavika Krishnera Tina Prakara Shakti Hoya. So there are three separate energies of Krishna. We will look at that later, or not today. But the first line is what we want to focus on. Jivera Swarupa Hoy Krishnera Nityadas. That the essential Swarupa, the most innermost true identification Swarupa of a Jiva is to serve Lord Krishna. Krishnera Nityadas, eternal, to be an eternal servant of Krishna. A servant's job is to make sure that he does whatever is for the pleasure or for the happiness of the master. And this master is not like a taskmaster, always keeps demanding things from you. His happiness is in the servant's happiness. Guess what? So this is basically an eternal relationship of love between the devotee and the Lord. But the devotee doesn't expect the love. So that's why that concept of servant or service comes in. To serve Krishna unconditionally, completely unconditionally. That is the essential. To be a devotee or a servant of Krishna is the essential dharma of a of all jivas. Jivera Swarup Hoid Krishnera Nityadas. So that is the dharma of a living entity. Now, as we said, there can be layers of dharma. So I'll go to a new slide. The essential dharma is to serve Krishna. That is the essence. How do we manifest that? How do we express that dharma? The expression of that dharma is by Nama Sankirtana. By Nama Sankirtana of Krishna, we express our service to Krishna. This is the very, very, very last verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the final conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll go to Canto 12, last canto, 13th chapter, last chapter, and last verse. And this verse ends with this. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Sarva Papa Pranashanam Pranamo Dukkha Shamanastam Namami Harim Param. So this, through the process of Nama Sankirtana, all auspiciousness, all purity, all piety is obtained. Basically, that is the essence. And this is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. After 18,000 verses, this is the last verse, through Nama Sankirtana. So Nama Sankirtana is the essence or the expression of being service to Krishna. And this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has also said. In there is this another verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, last verse. I think we covered this. That Krite yad dhyayato Vishnum Tretayam yajato makhai dvapare paricharyayam kalau tad hari kirtanam. Tad hari kirtanat. That especially in Kali Yuga, so there are various Yuga dharmas. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says that there are various dharmas of each yuga. How you can serve Krishna in various yugas. In Satyuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara, and Kali. So that verse gives various expressions how you can serve Krishna in various yugas. Especially in Kali Yugas, it is Hari Sankirtanam. In Satyuga, it is Dhyana. Dhyana, Dhyana. Then it is Makhaihi, sacrifices. Worship, as in worship of the deity. That is Paricharyayam. So Krite means in Satyuga, Yad dhyayato Vishnu, by doing dhyana of Vishnu. Tretayam yajato makhaihi, by doing sacrifices. Makhaihi means sacrifices. The same word has been used in Bhagavad Gita also few times. Dvapare paricharyayam means worshipping the deity. Kalau tad hari kirtanat. In Kali Yuga, it is just Hari Sankirtanam. So that is the Yuga Dharma. Especially in Kali Yuga, to serve Krishna. In Kali Yuga, our dharma is Hari Sankirtana. But this is our essential dharma, to serve Krishna. So that is the discussion I wanted to have on what is the meaning of dharma and what is the dharma for jivas. Now, some people, a sort of a dharma of all jivas is also known as Athato Brahma Jigyasa, which means that who am I? This is also called in other scriptures that this is the dharma of a living entity, especially for a human being. Now, so we have to understand it in a little bit of context. All Jivera Swarup hoy, all living entities are supposed to serve Krishna. Okay. The human being is supposed to serve Krishna by inquiring, who am I? This is the first step. This is not the only step that you spend all your life in just thinking, who am I? Very quickly, you must realize that I am a servant of Krishna. And because I am a servant of Krishna, I must perform Hari Sankirtana. So that whole thing is the dharma. So it's not just about, yes, atato brahma jigyasa. That means to have that inquiry as to who am I, jigyasa, or that curiosity or that inquiry, who am I, is very important. But that's not the goal. The goal is to realize, to understand what is the answer to that and then act upon that answer. So that whole thing is the dharma. If you do not do this, as a human especially, then the human life is not, you're not fulfilling the purpose, the dharma of a human life. It's like having a table. As soon as you put something, the leg breaks and the thing falls. It's not a table. From far away, as long as you don't put anything on it, it looks like a table, but its legs are made of paper. You put a book on it, a heavy book, the table falls down because the legs are very weak. So then you can't call it a table. It's just a table in visually. It's not a table in reality. So like that, in human life, if we keep just doing sense gratification, then visually you can say, yes, you are a human being, but you're not fulfilling the dharma of a human being. So that is the dharma of a human being. Okay. Is that a satisfactory answer? Prabhuji and Mataji, who had asked this question?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for asking. Next question that was asked was, what was the question? The various what are the various incarnations? Correct? So again, some of these deeper questions, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has answered very nicely. So I will show one slide. Yeah. Lord Krishna's Swamsha expansions, this is given in Madhya Leela. Again, I think this is chapter 21. I can confirm, but again, I'll let me see. This is 20. Yeah, chapter 20. Maybe I can just show this. Yeah, this may be a good slide to show. It is showing a lot of the expansions, the whole expansions of Lord Krishna. So in these verses, 165 to 242, a pretty big section, almost like, looks like 80 verses of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 20. Lord Krishna is describing, or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is describing to Srila Sanatana Goswami all his expansions. And I have given the various verse numbers also where these various descriptions are given. So it starts off with Lord Krishna being the source of all expansions or all avatars. And then there are various, various expansions. And most of the expansions that are known as that we know about are part of the Swamsha expansions, or the partial manifestations of the Lord. So we'll focus on that. There are many other expansions, and you should read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, these verses, chapter 20, these 80 verses, along with the purports of Srila Prabhupada, you will get a good understanding. So let's go here. Among the Swamsha expansions, there are 6 categories: Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, Guna avatars, Manvantara avatars, Yuga avatars, and Satyavesha avatars. So I think I have individual slide on each of these. Yeah. Okay. So Purusha avatars. These are the three Purusha avatars. When the Lord enters in his spiritual form into the material world, and he enters into the material manifestation as Mahavishnu, also known as Karnodakshai Vishnu. He is the creator of the total of the whole of all the material energy. Then from his body, the universes are emanating, and he enters into each universe as the Paramatma of each universe. There his name is Garbhodakshai Vishnu. And then within each universe, he enters as a Paramatma into every living and non-living entity. He is known as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So these expansions of Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu into the material world as Paramatma, there are three levels of Paramatma. Paramatma of the whole universe is Karnodakshai. Paramatma of each universe is Garbhodakshai, and Paramatma of each living entity and even in non-living entity, every atom, he is called as Kshirodakshai Vishnu. So these are the three Purusha avatars. Okay, then we will go to the Leela avatars. There are innumerable Leela avatars, innumerable. And these are for the performance of the pastimes for the pleasure of their devotees. This is the Paritranaya Sadhunam part. The devotees gain a lot of pleasure through these pastimes, and they perform certain big actions, certain big accomplishments. They have come there to perform the Leela avatars like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana, and Raghunatha or Lord Ram, Raghu. From the Lord Rama is also known as Raghu. To perform certain actions, to perform certain specific leelas, and for the pleasure of the devotees. These are those Leela avatars. Then there are the Guna avatars, the three Guna avatars, the three controllers of the material qualities, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So Lord Brahma represents the mode of passion, or he is the controller of the mode of passion. Lord Vishnu is the controller of mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva is the controller of the mode of ignorance or tamoguna. So they are the three main principal controllers of each of these gunas. There are more details in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We don't have time to go into the various details. I have given here the various verses. This recording will be there on YouTube. You can follow the text and the verse numbers. And yeah, I have more details here. Guna avatars. Then there are the Yuga avatars. In each Yuga, there are various avatars for each Yuga, specifically one for each Yuga. So in Kali Yuga, if you look at the last column, the Lord appeared in a golden color as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 5th verse, 32nd verse. His description is given. And he introduces the Krishna Nama Sankirtana as the Yuga Dharma, as the activities. So in the last row, in this row, you see the activity of each. These are the avatars, the Yuga avatars. The names are not known. So we don't know the names, or at least I don't know the names, but the colors are given. He appeared in white color, red color, black color. Some more bodily features are given. And their activity is to establish the Yuga Dharma of the Yuga avatar. So to establish the dhyana or meditation, sacrifices or makhaihi, and the worship paricharyayam, which we saw in that particular verse. Canto 12, 3rd chapter, 52nd verse, the last one. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu introduced Nama Sankirtana, which is the Yuga Dharma. So the purpose of Yuga avatars is to establish Yuga Dharma. That is why they appear. Okay, so that is the purpose of Yuga avatar. So we have covered how many? 3. We covered 4 actually. Purusha avatar, Leela avatar, Guna avatar. This is Lord Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. and we covered Yuga avatar. Now 2 are remaining, Manvantara avatar. Oh, I think I have skipped that. Oh, there is Shaktiavesh avatar, and then is there Manvantara avatars? No. So there are also the Manvantara avatars, the Manus. They are known as the Manvantara avatars, the various Manus. There are 14 Manus in every day of Krishna. So I'm surprised I didn't have a slide on that. But anyway, that's okay. Where is the... Shaktiavesha avatars. Okay. So there is the Manvantara avatars, which are the 14 Manus in every day of Brahma. They are also avatars of Lord Vishnu and or of Lord Krishna. And Shaktiavesha avatars are the empowered incarnations, the incarnations who are empowered by the Lord to accomplish a specific purpose. And there are many examples of the Shaktiavesha avatars. Some examples are given here. There are 2 categories, Mukhya and Gauna, which means primary and secondary. And there are many primary examples of primary avatars. For example, Narad Muni is an avatar of Lord Krishna, and many other examples are there. So this is the sort of the overall description of the various incarnations of Lord Shri Krishna. So just to kind of complete the picture here, there are Lord Krishna is the source of all the incarnations, and then there are various incarnations or expansions of Lord Krishna. One of them is known as the Swamsha avatars, and there are 6 primary categories, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And these are the Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, Guna avatars, Yuga avatars, Manvantara, and Shaktiavesha. These are the 6 categories of primary. The Swamsha is what we primarily are familiar with. And there are many other avatars as well. The Lord basically comes or appears in various places, various times, various places for accomplishing certain purposes, for enacting certain pastimes, etc., to keep you know, his interactions and his relationship with his devotees going, and to bring back all the living entities, or to encourage and inspire them to come back to Krishna. So that
what is the reference of this, sir? What is the reference you said? You told what was the
Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Okay.
So you should be familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita. It is it's the 3rd book here after Srimad Bhagavatam in the Veda base.
Okay.
It has Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and then Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Thank you.
Okay, so those are the 2 main questions that were asked yesterday. Now there are some couple of questions here. I will paste this question and then we will read it. Can a person's bad karma and good karma of equal amount cancel each other? Answer is no. With no effect on him, no. Or will that person realize the bad effects and good effects separately? Yes.
Doubly special with tender king crab legs from Fred Meyer.
Please mute. Okay, I will mute. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So that is the answer. However, in the Vedic scriptures, in the Vedas, there is given what is known as the process of atonement. What is known as paschatap. That can cancel the sinful activities, not good activities. Good activities, you have to enjoy the results. Bad activities, you have to suffer. So you cannot choose, oh, I will just do this good activity and, so much my bad activity will be cancelled. No, that does not work. It does not work like that. You have to separately enjoy or suffer the good or bad reactions of your actions, respectively. However, to cancel the sinful activities in the Vedic scriptures, there is processes of atonement that are given. And those specific processes can cancel the sinful activities that you may have. And such, but those have to be performed according to the process. So that, and today in the Srimad Bhagavatam class, we will go into a little bit detail. We are starting a new topic, the topic of Ajamila. And we will see how that, a little bit, we will have discussion on this process of atonement, how it can cancel sinful activities. So I hope that answers this question. Any follow-up on this?
No, the answer was clear. Thank you very much.
So let me take this next question. It's a little long. I'll paste it here so that we can both read it together, all of us. So I will put it here. I'll make it bigger. Okay. Let's read it. Do everything as an offering to Krishna. That's correct. I assume do refers to act or execute. No, not really. It doesn't. I'm going to answer it as I read it. Just sort of live commentary. I don't know why the line is coming a little bit lower. I'll just make it higher. Okay. It's not act or execute. It's the bhava or consciousness that matters, not just the act or execute. Okay. So as an offering to Krishna, it has to be the bhava. So Krishna is not directly present in front of us, in front of our eyes. How can we offer directly to Krishna? We have to have that consciousness or the bhava. Before I do something, I need to choose what I need to do. Example, if I'm donating money, I need to choose where I donate the money. And there is always an opportunity cost. Okay, fine. Sometimes there is an opportunity cost, sometimes there is not. How do I make sure I'm choosing the right options so that I can then do the right things as an offering to Krishna? Okay. So maybe I would like to ask is there anything more, behind the question, or any specific situation? Because
Prabhuji, it's every day when I do something, there are always these options, right? For example, for example, if you donate money to an organization, there are hundreds of them to choose from. How can you choose which one is the best option, and then you can do that as an offering to Krishna, for example?
Yeah, very nice. So okay. Now, a couple of things that you can do. Let's say you blindly just donate. You have a very clear heart, but let's say you do not have the time. So let me start from the top. The best thing is you are a human being. You are not an animal. Human beings have intelligence. Use the intelligence is one of the key capabilities that has been given to us. Use that intelligence to serve Krishna. Like the gopis, they used their intelligence. Today, Krishna might like this. Today, Krishna would like this. Whatever, just like a mother, she doesn't raise a child without intelligence. She knows what the child might want at a certain time and things like that. So use your intelligence to do some research. Which organization is really trying to serve Krishna in the best way? And you can donate some money to them. And donate doesn't only mean that you donate it to an organization. Donate can also mean basically donating it in Krishna's service. If you are doing some service and you are spending money to do that service, then that is also a donation. you can donate, so to say, to yourself, but I mean, that's not like to yourself, but you are doing some service. Like, for example, we cleared out our furniture from our living room and we bought like 30 chairs. Each chair was $20 or something, $25 times 30. You can calculate it, some few $100s. We spent the money to make our living room into a classroom when we used to do in-person classes. So you can say we donated it to ourselves. I mean, spending $700-800 is not, it's not a very big amount, but it's not like $5 either. Then whatever other things, that you have to do in the service of the Lord, you do that. Time and money are two key ingredients that we have. We earn, we spend our energy. So my point is, use your intelligence. Find out who is serving Krishna best. Buy a couple of boxes of Bhagavad Gita, go and distribute it. Go and give it to your friends. Go on the street and distribute. We do that. We used to do that before COVID a lot. Go to the street and distribute Bhagavad Gitas to people. Talk to them for 5 minutes. Don't just leave it on a table and, okay, it's up for grabs. Not like that. Some people may take it and throw it away. I mean, still they may take it and throw it away, even if you give it in somebody's hands, but at least talk for 2 minutes. Tell them this is what Bhagavad Gita is. And if they show interest, yeah, I would like to read, give it to them. You pay for it. Through our temple, you can talk to me. We have Bhagavad Gita boxes available for $120. And it has 16 Bhagavad Gitas. So each comes to, I don't know, you can do the math. Probably it comes to $7.5 each, including shipping, everything. So you can distribute. So you can do a lot of things at a personal level. You can find out which organizations are doing there. Then that whole process of, first of all, if you're doing it yourself, that is direct service to Krishna. You are not only spending your money, you are spending your time, energy, everything. If you're doing some research about an organization, that is, you are spending your intelligence, your time for Krishna, trying to find out where the hard-earned money, which has come from your hard work, not your hard work, that your intelligence, your energy, your brain was also given by Krishna. So by Krishna's resources that he has given you, you have earned the money. You're trying to use that money in the best way. You're doing the research. Do the research and try to give it to some good organization. Or if you just want to give it to someone, if you don't have the time, just in your heart, you can pray that, wherever this money is going, I hope it is going to the right people. They're all children of God. Everybody is a child of God. So therefore, this money is going to help them in some way. So if you give it to someone as if you are donating it to your brothers and sisters, because we are all children of God, that is Krishna consciousness at one level, that I'm giving it to my brothers and sisters because we are all children of Krishna and we are supposed to love our brothers and sisters. We are giving it to them. You don't, maybe give it to some orphanage, something. Now, it may be possible that that orphanage or whatever is corrupt and the money is actually not reaching the needy people. Well, then, that's also a problem. Without research, if you give, it is said that you also attract the bad karma for it. If you give it unknowingly or to somebody corrupt, then you must do some basic research that yes, this is at least a decent organization, and you give to them. So there are various methods that you can apply. The main point, I think, the essence is use your intelligence, use your do some research, spend your time and energy, and utilize the resources that have been given by Krishna in the service of Krishna properly. That just shows Krishna has no shortage of resources, that if these $200 are lost, a big amount is lost. Krishna has infinite money, infinite resources. The time and energy we spend simply shows our love, our interest. Just like a mother, when she takes care of a child, she takes it with interest. She spends the time to see what my child needs. Doesn't do things blindly. So that shows the love. Okay.
Thanks, Prabhuji. That was very clear. Thank you.
So there's no very pinpoint answer, but this is the principle. And you try to do it and try to walk on this principle. And if you have further doubts or questions, okay, this part I understood, this part I did not understand, I'll be happy to clarify as much as I can. But you will only know those doubts once you start applying it. Otherwise, it will all remain at a theoretical level. Now, for example, like I was mentioning, I think yesterday in the class, little bit donation to Vedabase will be a good idea. I know they are doing sincere service by keeping this website alive. We cannot hold our classes if that website is down. I mean, I spend money in Zoom plans and all, but thankfully Lord Krishna has given me enough money. I'm using whatever money I'm using for my, these outreach programs as a service. You can donate to our Portland. You live in Portland, I know. You can donate money to our Portland ISKCON temple. It's doing, I can tell you, I was used to manage the finances. I was treasurer for many years of the temple. And not a single penny is misused. It is used only for service to Krishna, for worshipping the deity, for distributing prasad, for various activities within the temple. So I can tell you that. And there can be many such, many resources can be there. This is not the only place.
Okay, thanks a lot, Prabhuji.
Okay, so looks like there are no more questions. Anything else anyone has? We are almost out of time also. Okay, then thank you very much. Thank you for joining the Q&A session. And we will see you again next week in the Bhagavad Gita class, or tonight in the Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are starting a new topic, which will go on for 2-3 weeks. It's not a super long topic. The story of Ajamila, and very strongly we will see the power of the holy name and the glories of the holy name. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare